Well, welcome back to Fox City Stadium, where we're wrapping up Day 2 of the Division III Baseball Championships. A Saturday, another 4-game day, taking us right up to the witching hour at midnight. 4 games, 2 teams eliminated this morning and this afternoon, and then 2 great games in the winners bracket tonight. Well, 1 great game and a couple of great performances in the winners bracket tonight. First of all, of course, I'm Pat Coleman. Jim Dixon is the guy here, the Alaskan in the Hawaiian shirt, and what we do in our nightly wrap-up is I try to throw him curveballs and he tries to foul them off. So let's start with the straight one down the middle, and of course I think the biggest story of the night, Jim, has to be Illinois Wesleyan's continued run, now 15 wins in 18 games, as they defeated Heidelberg tonight by the score of 4-3.
Illinois Wesleyan is having a lot of fun. They're out there, they're loose. Right now they're getting the hits that they need. When they need to get a key hit, they're bringing it through. They got a great pitching performance yesterday. They got a great pitching performance today. And they still got a pitcher tomorrow that they can throw. So it's not inconceivable to see Illinois Wesleyan in the championship game.
Brent Kulovic improved to 6-2 tonight. 9 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 runs, no walks, and 6 strikeouts. Kulovic, of course, is a guy who was a D3Baseball.com All-American back in 2008. But, you know, Jim, IWU, the Titans, they were 14-17 on April 29th. They've gone 15-3 since. What's the difference?
The difference is they got some players back, and they're playing with some confidence. Before, in the beginning, they were not getting those key hits. They were not getting the runs that they needed to win the games. And their defense really was a little bit sloppy. What they've been able to do is they've been able to tighten up the defense. They've been able to sit there and get those key hits and get an offense that is purring. And they got a pitching staff that just cannot be stopped. There's no reason why they can't go all the way. And they certainly have shown us everything that you need to see out of a champion.
The team that they'll be facing here on Sunday night, game 7 o'clock Central Time, is they'll be facing Linfield. Linfield, of course, has had certainly broken out the bats the last 2 days. Tonight, defeating Cortland State by the final score of 25-11 in a game that seemed to be over long before the 3 hours and 39 minutes were up.
One of the things that Linfield does is they stress the fundamentals. They're one of the best defensive teams in Division III baseball, and we really have not yet seen that out of the Lynchburg team. Every game they've committed a few errors, they've bundled something, but they certainly have brought the sticks. They're hitting very well. They have the pitching too that can go all the way. We saw a great performance by Ryan Larson yesterday, and we saw another equally good performance by Garrett Dorn.
Garrett Dorn did end up giving up 6 earned runs and 9 hits. Only 9 hits, though, over the course of 7 innings. And, you know, again, a lot of them in which, you know, the game had been long decided. You know, just to recap, I mean, Cortland struck first in the top of the first, but then, you know, Linfield put up 3 spots in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 4 in the 5th, 2 in the 6th, 8 in the 7th, and another pair of runs in the bottom of the 8th to get to that 25. Cortland got a lot of its runs late, 4 of them in the 9th inning after the game was long over and the benches had been pretty much empty.
Yeah, and you got to look, and even the inning that Linfield did not score, they had runners on base and they were threatening. One of the things that you really got to say about Cortland is they really battle back. If you look at what they did against Wisconsin Stevens Point, they gained a lot of confidence coming back. You could look at that Cortland team and you can say, these are guys who are still going to battle, even though they're down 5, 6 runs. They just ran into a team that is just scoring a ton of runs right now.
You know, Linfield's done it, of course, you know, against Mass Boston, who was, you know, remember they finished the tournament 32-17. They were the 7th seed in the New England Regional, and then they faced Cortland State today, a Cortland State team which had to use 2 of its starting pitchers on Friday just to get out of the first round because of the injury. So that, you know, they've been facing teams that may not be necessarily the quality of pitching that you might get from Illinois Wesleyan's number 3 starter on Sunday.
Well, one thing you got to say about UMass Boston is when they played Stevens Point today, they did a very good job. They had as many hits as Stevens Point had. The problem was that Stevens Point was getting the hits in the key situations, runners on base. UMass Boston left 15 men on base. That's a lot of men to leave on base, and you got to ask Stevens Point about that, because when they lost to Cortland, they also left 15 men on base. But UMass was the first team to come out through here without an error, and they certainly could hold their heads high. They certainly showed themselves that they're worthy of being here at the championships.
They were one of the two teams eliminated earlier today. Final score was 13-3. Stevens Point jumped out early with 6 runs in the bottom half of the first inning and never really looked back. Although, you know, as Jim mentioned, Mass Boston certainly put runners on base. They ended up with 12 hits. Scott Williams, you know, when I worked at Baseball Weekly, I would not be allowed to say that you scattered 11 hits over 7 innings. That would be, we consider that mathematically impossible. But, you know, to give up 11 hits and only give up 3 runs, I think there's some scattering involved.
Absolutely. Scott Williams did an excellent job. He had that one bad inning against Cortland and got the loss in the first game. And he came back and he pitched well. That's what Stevens Point is going to have. They're going to have their starting pitchers come through and pitch a lot better than they pitched in the first game. And there is no reason why Stevens Point can't sit there, especially with the home crowd behind them, and make some noise in this tournament.
The other game that took place on Saturday, Johns Hopkins busts out for 7 runs in the top of the 8th, and they go on to defeat Shenandoah by the score of 7-4. You know, for Johns Hopkins, and we heard Coach Bob Babb talk about this in the post-game show. You know, this was a situation in which he almost kind of forgot whether they could hit or whether they could get the clutch hit.
Yes, they really have not been in this situation before where they have not been able to get those hits. And you saw in the 8th inning, they just started hitting like you would expect Johns Hopkins to hit. They're the Division III Baseball Player of the Year, Kahn, was he was hitless until today. He got his first hit. Maybe he's getting a little bit of confidence.
A bunt single at that.
Yeah, and so I think we're going to see something out of Johns Hopkins because they got a lot of potential that's right behind them. And when you get into these later rounds, the offense really starts to show.
Yeah, and they're going to be facing a Cortland State team at noon on Sunday. Cortland State, which already, as we mentioned, a fairly depleted pitching staff. Jesse Sikorsky got the big hits going. Started off in the top of the 8th with a 3-run double, bases clearing double, and of course his situation, his availability for Sunday is still up in the air.
It really is. We talked to the coach about it, and he had a gash. He's going to try to get some stitches or whatever it takes to heal that, and he may be able to be back. But we're certainly not expecting to see Jesse Sikorsky, a real cog in that Johns Hopkins machine, back.
Johns Hopkins, I heard from their sports information staff earlier, 11-2 in their last 13 elimination games, and they face another one on Sunday. So it's Johns Hopkins against Cortland State at noon, followed by Heidelberg against Wisconsin-Stevens Point at 3:30, and then the Winners Bracket Championship game between Linfield and Illinois Wesleyan at 7. And unlike today and the last couple of days where games have been scheduled 3 hours and 15 minutes apart, a completely unreasonable and unrealistic schedule, 3.5 hours apart tomorrow, we might actually get those games off on time, those later ones.
Oh, absolutely. And if you've been here at the ballpark for all 4 games in 2 days, you know that it's a long day. Certainly tomorrow, you're probably going to have people who want to come to all 3 games because it's certainly easy to do, and you can, and it's a nice facility to come in.
So thanks for joining us on our nightly wrap-up from Grand Chute, Wisconsin. He's Jim Dixon. I'm Pat Coleman. Come back to d3baseball.com for continuing coverage throughout the weekend, and we'll bring you another nightly wrap-up on Sunday night. Good night, everybody.
Night.